Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the nerdiest competition ever created by the Language of Bromance team. In this corner, obsessed with Star Wars and anything with swords, Richard! And in this corner, obsessed with the Ninja Turtles and scared of anything from the ocean, Shawn! Brought to you as a Pod Bros exclusive in association with the LOB Army. Tonight's competition is a Language of Bromance draft.
What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And today we are speaking the language of bromance. And in order to speak the language of bromance today, Shawn, we need to go to the kitchen,
Head there.
grab some tinfoil,
Got it.
fold it into a paper, into a hat, and put it on your head.
Because, Richard, today we are doing the Conspiracy Theories draft. The NSA is watching you, bitches. So if you don't know, and you should, this is the 28th time we've done this, Richard.
Or maybe you do know.
Yeah, because you've been listening.
Because you've been listening.
This is one of our draft episodes, and this one we're going to draft conspiracy theories. And this is NFL style, 7 rounds. So if whoever has the first pick in the first round has the first pick in the second round. Back in the day when Richard and I did this, we flipped a penny, and I won, or did I win? Conspiracy theorists are out on that one.
Because I wasn't there. I wasn't there for the penny flip, so I don't know what actually happened.
So on odd drafts, I get the first pick. Even drafts, Richard gets the first pick, and this is an even draft. So Richard, it's all you.
Okay. So I decided to go with conspiracy theories that either I find interesting or that I am somewhat convinced of.
Okay. Little asterisk on this on mine, I guess, is like I don't necessarily believe in all these, but they're the same thing. Ones that are kind of interesting.
Okay. So for my first one, and I think this is the general conspiracy theory, not a general one, but I think this is when you say conspiracy theory, this is the one you think of. Shawn, for my first round pick, I am gonna go with the New World Order conspiracy theory. The thought that there is a one world government being perpetuated by secret societies, namely Illuminati, and also it's kind of in there, the Freemasons.
What's the Freemasons? I've heard of the
You've never heard of the Freemasons? They have lodges like all over the world. It's the little it's the little compass symbol with a G in it. Really?
What do they do? Like, what do they Freemason?
It's like it's sold to you as a kind of like a fraternity, like the
Skull and Bones.
No, not the Skull and Bones, because there's signs that say Masonic Temple.
Okay, so it's like a religion?
No, it is not a religion.
Why do they call it a temple?
Think of it like the Shriners in a way.
So they help kids?
Sometimes they do charity events or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a it's a club that you were either invited to or you have to go. You have to get into this club, and then there's degrees of this club.
So like Scientology.
Kind of, but you don't end up broke at the end of it. So that's good.
I know, and kind of, I'm not like a huge, like, I don't know a ton of conspiracy theories. I know a few, but this is one that like comes up in a bunch of different ways, like some kind of one world government.
Yeah. Shadow government. That's my
I
favorite.
think you were the one the first that really introduced me to that, like back in the day when we were working together. You mentioned, like, you probably told me about the Freemasons or the New World Order.
Probably.
I didn't understand what it was. It's like, oh yeah, it's these people like behind the scenes that are it's almost like a human matrix type thing. Like somebody else is pulling the strings and making all these things happen.
Right. Or that world that there are places where world leaders come together and work, not necessarily work and or talk in secret, like Bohemian Grove.
I've heard of Bohemian Grove. We've talked about it before.
We have talked about Bohemian Grove before, which is a real place, and all sorts of people have been leaders, captains of industry, mega billionaires, former presidents.
Don't they have like an owl? Isn't their big thing an owl?
Their big thing is an owl because it's like a big giant wooden carving of an owl, and like the whole thing the whole thing's themed in sort of a Greek mythology kind of thing. So the owl is, represents the goddess Athena. Apparently the different like cabins where people sleep are named after different Greek gods.
Don't they have orgies there?
That's rumored that there's orgies.
There probably isn't. They just do like book readings and talk about how good of businessmen they are.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if that's the case, then there's a possibility that can you imagine like Richard Nixon in an orgy? Yeah, there you go. You live with that.
I got turned on.
I'm Tricky Dick. So Illuminati. That's the other. That's apparent. So I've heard all sorts of things that the Illuminati is a sect that is a concentrated base of power for this new world order, and that I've heard it's like a subsection inside the Freemason fraternity and all sorts of crazy shit. Apparently, historically there was an Illuminati, which was a group of people in Bavaria in the 14th century.
So this is something that basically they've been pushing the world like forever. So basically, like, we're big like ant farm to them, and they're the owners.
We're pawns in their game.
What do they get out of it? So, because that's the other thing I always think about conspiracy theories. Like, they tell you something's like, okay, there's this overarching like one world government.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, what's the benefit that they have for this? Like, why split things up the way they do?
Because it's not about perpetuating some sort of agenda. It's only about maintaining a power base.
Would they see it as they're doing this for the good of man?
Possibly, or just self-interest. Just, I'm going to manipulate events in order to make sure that I don't lose anything that I have.
But they already have it, so I mean, I guess.
But yeah, but they could lose it. I mean, you've got countries that enact laws. You've got wars that are fought. You've got, all sorts of shit.
So I guess if people get too close, that's when a big war breaks out.
Or that if there's countries, or if there's, different factions that are, or things are manipulated in order to work, in order to benefit a given power base. Like, you talk about like, why is a war fought? Well, what if you ran an arms company? Wouldn't you like war?
That's true. Yeah, there's some money benefit there.
So
is it the idea that every place in the world is run by this, or is it just like, are there like pockets of like rebellion fighters, like Luke Skywalker's out there somewhere?
Maybe.
That's North Korea.
They're the only ones that got it right.
I've heard like people talk about that. It's not really a conspiracy theory that I've written down, but like, what if North Korea is actually like the ideal place, and like everything else is trying to destroy that so people don't see it?
That's true. I would believe that, except for the people that have gotten out.
They're like, wait, you guys have running water and food?
Yeah, food.
We don't have a city alarm clock that goes off at 5 a.m. Did you know they have that?
Yeah.
every day at 5 a.m. they have a big bells and music go off. It's like, hey, fuckers, get out of bed and go to work.
Yeah, what's that thing sitting on your desk? That's a computer you connect to the internet. What the fuck is the internet?
Well, the internet's a place where people get online and bitch about movies.
Yeah, and share pornography with one another. This is amazing. So yeah, there you go, Shawn. That is my number one pick, and that is that we are all mere pawns in the game of the New World Order.
All right, that's a pretty good pick. Like I said, I saw that for a lot of the things. I kind of left it off because I thought you were going to take it.
Yeah.
My first round pick is actually, we kind of mentioned this before we kicked off the show. This is the reason I wanted to do a conspiracy theory draft, Richard. So we all know as kids, right? We've been told that the world is spherical, that we go around the sun.
No.
And very recently, Richard, a basketball player said that he believed that that's not true and that we, in fact, live on a flat earth, Richard. I am going to go with the flat earth conspiracy theory.
You know, I'm fine if this is on your list, but why is it number one?
It's a hot topic right now.
Like to me, this is the thing that you pick when you've run out of shit to pick, because you're like, oh God, he took 4 of my picks. I guess I'll go with flat Earth. But why is this number one? Please tell me.
Well, I asked the question because I was like, okay, like I just don't. The reason I asked you about the one world government, like I didn't quite understand why. Like even if the Earth is flat, like why are people telling us it's spherical? Like what does that matter?
No, not even if the world is flat. It's round. It's a round ball in space.
How do you know? Have you seen it?
Have I seen the curvature of the Earth? Yes.
Yeah. What from what?
From a plane. From if you're standing,
you can't see the curvature from a plane.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. Not the whole.
Not the whole curvature of the Earth, but you look and you see the horizon, and it has a curve to it.
No, it does. You can't see that. You're making stuff up.
I'm not making stuff up. When snipers have to fire a bullet,
yeah.
When snipers shoot a bullet,
they
have to take the Coriolis effect into account if they're shooting from a great distance.
How do you know that?
Because that's what snipers do.
Oh, yeah? You just heard that from a story? Like somebody told you that?
No, I didn't hear it from a story.
Well, something interesting about that. So the fact that snipers have to take that into account, but planes, I just recently read this, planes going they go east, the flight path should take less time.
I want to punch you so bad. The fact that this is what bothers me, okay? It's not the fact that you know what? Wait, scratch that. It is the fact that we have to have a debate over whether or not the Earth is round. It is 2017. We have computers in our pockets. We've put a man on the fucking moon.
Oh, have we, Richard? Have we put a man on the moon?
Damn it.
Where'd you see that one at, Richard?
Oh, God.
You know what else I've seen videos of, Richard? Giant robots fighting each other from outer space.
Dear fucking Lord.
But no, so I asked, I'm like, okay, so you were saying like it's not, but like, I'm like, even in some weird world where it is flat.
Okay.
And there's these, the scientists and stuff have this conspiracy theory. It's like, no, it's a round Earth. I'm like, why? What does it matter? Like, what does it even matter if it's flat or not? Like, why would you lie about that? If you know it's flat, like, so conspiracy theory talking here. I'm a scientist. I know for a 100% fact that it's flat. Why am I selling it that it's spherical?
I don't know. You have to look on YouTube and some crazy ass man will tell you why.
Yeah. Or one of our friends has told me why.
Oh my God.
So he mentioned, he's like, so one of the reasons that this would happen is because this would allow you to create NASA, which you could funnel billions of dollars to. For some fake, space program.
And then do what?
I don't know. You have billions of dollars. I mean, it's just like a lot of other things. I mean, there's places that money gets funneled to that aren't being used for what they say they are. But this is just one of those ideas.
So NASA is a big slush fund. That's what you're saying.
That's one theory of why you would want this spherical thing. Because, I mean, there's scientists and stuff that are working there that are probably getting their pockets filled.
But they build the rockets. Like, there's a tangible thing. Okay, you're saying, oh, we fund billions of dollars into NASA, far less now than we ever did.
It's still a lot of money, though, isn't it? It's still billions.
It's still billions, but it's nowhere near the kind of funding that they need or want. But even with those little amounts of money, they're still building the fucking rockets. And then they shoot the rock. Where do the rockets go?
Well, why do you think they have to have people so far back? It's a visual thing because it looks bigger than what it is.
What are they, David fucking Copperfield? They just drag out a big mirror?
Maybe.
They put a sheet over the shuttle Atlantis and they're like, and it's gone. Oh my God.
I find it funny that you're very upset about this.
I am upset about this because the fact that we have to have that we still have to have a debate over whether or not the earth is round. These are the kind of arguments that make me not want to live on this round earth anymore.
So the other thing that is okay, why what's some factual stuff of why the earth is flat. So Richard, take your glass of water right now.
We're still talking about this.
Richard, take your glass of water that you have. And just move your hand up real quick. What happens?
What if I move if I'm holding the water and I lift my hand up?
Like you throw it behind your shoulder, what happens?
If I throw the cup of water behind my shoulder?
Yeah.
I'll make a mess on my floor.
Yeah, the water goes all over the place, right?
Right.
How then, Richard, if the earth is spinning at thousands and thousands of miles per hour, that our oceans are not constantly being thrown in the air?
Because of gravity, Shawn! Because of gravity! Because of the law of gravity. The law
Richard.
of gravity. Not the theory of gravity, not the hypothesis of gravity, the law of gravity. If you throw things in the air, they fall. By that account, why doesn't everything just fly off? Because of gravity, Shawn. Gravity is the unifying force of the fucking universe.
Okay, Richard, so you have this strong gravity holding all these things in place, right?
Yes.
Well, then how the hell can a butterfly fly? If gravity is so strong to keep these oceans that are, moving thousands of miles an hour from throwing up in the air,
dear
how
God.
can a small butterfly fly through the air without being pulled down?
Okay. I could explain to you the whole theory of lift and aerodynamics and the laws of, the Newton's laws of motion and perpetual motion and things like that. But I'm not going to. I'm just not. I can't do it.
I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying these are the things that they use for it.
Oh my God. This shit hurts my head. It hurts my heart.
It's just interesting.
There's another one. Okay, the flat earth thing pisses me off. And there's another conspiracy theory, blah, 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 that slightly pisses me off. And I might get to that in a second. But for now, I'm just going to say that I have a problem that we're even having that there's even a debate. That's all I'm saying. The fact that we have to have a debate over whether or not the earth is round in this day and age just fucking grinds my goddamn gears.
But so Richard, that is going to be my first. I think it was good. It caused some good conversation. This is the first time I feel like there was, and I'm not a flat Earth person. Like I believe it's spherical. I mean, that's what I've been taught. That's what pictures have been shown.
Yeah. So
that's my first round pick, the flat Earth conspiracy theory, and I'm glad I picked it.
So the sun goes around. Oh, God damn it. No, we're not. No, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Okay. My second round pick is a theory. We're going to get religious, Shawn. We're going to delve into some religion. There's two things you don't talk about: politics and religion. Guess what? We're breaking rules 1 and 2. For my second round pick, I'm going to go with a theory that was published in a book in a few books. You've actually seen bits and pieces of it on the History Channel, but it was popularized heavily by another book, the best-selling book by Dan Brown called The Da Vinci Code. Shawn, for my second round pick, I am going to go with the Jesus and Mary Magdalene theory. So, did you read the Da Vinci Code?
No, I saw the movie though.
a lot of the work is a lot of the information and theories and stuff that you find in the Da Vinci Code, both the movie and the book, are based on another book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail that was published, I want to say in the 80s. So what the premise of this theory is that Jesus, as you and I know, 8 pound, 6 ounce baby Jesus, when he was, preaching to the masses and Sermon on the Mount and water to wine and all that he was actually, on top of those things, he was actually married, and that he was married to the woman in the Bible known as Mary Magdalene,
who was a prostitute.
Oh, see, you're misleading yourself, because the whole prostitute thing was perpetuated by the Catholic Church to try and discredit her and her impact on the life of Jesus. So Jesus and Mary Magdalene are like this, all right? They're married. They're married, Shawn. She even wrote a gospel. How's that sound?
Gospel of Mary Magdalene?
The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Guess what? Wasn't included in the Bible. There's a bunch of...
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that wasn't, yeah.
Bunch of stuff that wasn't. So the theory goes is that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married, and here's the kicker, Shawn. When Jesus was crucified, Mary was forced to flee because she was pregnant.
Oh, with Jesus's baby.
With
Jesus Jr.
Yeah, Jesus Jr. Jesus part deux. Now you might ask yourself, why was this covered up? Why was this whole story? Why is this the story that hasn't been told? Because this was the Catholic Church's way of maintaining their power. See, because that's what it all comes down to. One world order, what do they want? They want to stay powerful. Catholic Church, what do they want? They want to stay powerful. And you can't have a conversation about somebody that's a divine being when he's knocking up chicks.
Why couldn't you, though? I mean, he was human. I mean, yeah, he was divine, but he was...
But that's the thing. It calls into question the divinity of Christ from the church's standpoint.
Yeah.
And so from their point of view, they basically just erased that part of history. But by that theory, that means that there are people somewhere in the world today that might share a chromosome or two with Jesus.
That's kind of interesting. Go. Oh, I didn't know I had wine in here. I thought it was just water.
I like the fact you had to say gulp, 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 gulp to mimic it.
So I guess that's weird that the Catholic Church would think that would lose their power, that Jesus wasn't divine. Because I mean,
and also who runs the Catholic Church?
The Pope.
And what is the Pope? A guy.
He's a dude.
He is a dude. All the priests, what are they?
Dudes.
Guys. Are there any women in the Catholic Church aside from nuns?
Oh, okay. I see you there. So if you start saying that he was okay with the ladies.
If Jesus was okay with the ladies, then guess what? Then the ladies...
Maybe, but the Catholic Church is very, very heavy on Jesus' mama, Mary. They promote her a lot.
But Mary wasn't Jesus's equal. That's the point of a Christian marriage, as far as I knew, was that a man and a woman got married and then they were equals. They were sharing an equal partnership. If Jesus is married, then what is Mary Magdalene? Does that make Mary, because Mary Magdalene wasn't sainted by the Catholic Church. It's not Saint Mary Magdalene, I don't think.
Probably not.
So this, and also the other thing you have to consider, Shawn, is the fact that when the Catholic Church was building their power base and trying to figure shit out, who was in the way when it came to forming in terms of spreading a religion across Europe? Romans. What was in the way? Well, not Romans, but women. Because in every single other religion, Greeks, Greek mythology, even Roman mythology, Celtic, Norse mythology, what did they have? They had priestesses. So
That-
not only is it a questioning Jesus, it's not only about maintaining the power base of the Catholic Church, but Catholic Church was run by a bunch of guys, so they wanted to make sure that guys stayed in control. Yeah, that one's got you thinking. Don't shrug your shoulders at me.
Jesus liked the ladies. I mean, I don't blame him.
Right? It's like in Dogma. Look at the whole thing of Dogma. Well, in Dogma, he apparently had brothers and sisters, but kind of the same premise. Anyway, that's my second round pick, is the Holy Blood, Holy Grail theory. The reason they call it the Holy Grail theory is because they're saying that the womb of Mary Magdalene and the bloodline that she carried is actually what is depicted as the Holy Grail.
All right, Richard. Well, I am going to go with, for my second round pick, it still deals with, we kind of teased it a little bit with my flat earth conspiracy theory when you talked about, we sent somebody to the moon, Richard.
We did.
And you know this because of videotapes.
Yeah.
Because, somebody, the president called the moon on the telephone because, there's connection on the moon for telephones. And many other reasons, I guess. But so for my second round pick, I am going to go with the moon landing conspiracy, and basically that it was a staged Hollywood event. Who would they say? Who they say actually made that? It's the dude that made The Shining, right?
Oh, Stanley Kubrick?
Yeah, it said Stanley Kubrick was the guy that filmed this at a Hollywood studio.
So the whole moon landing's fake. Did you there was I don't know if you I don't know how much you went into this, but there was a guy that was really big on this whole fake moon landing theory and actually confronted Buzz Aldrin about it.
I heard about that. Punched him in the face.
Buzz Aldrin, at that time, I think he was like, what, 60, 70?
He was old,
or
yeah.
60-something. Punched him right in the mush. Just poof. Knocked him on his ass.
And that's actually kind of adds to it, because if he was on the moon, his bones and stuff will be even more fragile because he was in that anti-gravity for a while.
Son of a bitch.
And so when he would have punched him, it would have actually broke his hand, but he knocked the dude out. So yeah, moon landing was fake.
Thing. See, this is what I love about conspiracy theories, is the fact that I'm like, hey, look, here's something that actually happened. Here's fact. And then you're like, but is it? And I'm like, God
that's a great moon landing conspiracy, or a great conspiracy theory. I mean, a lot of it that they say was because there was that big race to get to the moon with Russia and America. And the United States is the only country ever to get to the moon.
Right.
And they just kind of take it like, oh, yeah, we were actually there. I know they have things to debunk it. Like I guess they left lasers or glass up there.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna do to totally throw your shit out the window. Is the fact that it's the lunar laser ranging experiment. So I don't remember at what point the Apollo program put this there. I'm not sure which mission did it, but they put a reflective surface at a fixed point on the moon. So that way, and anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. All you need is a laser and a reflective surface, like some sort of something that'll pick up a red dot. So what you do is, once you have the coordinates, and NASA freely gives them out. NASA's like, oh, here are the coordinates for blah blah blah. So you aim this laser directly at the coordinates of the moon. You fire the laser, and since it's reflective material, that laser shoots out to the moon, hits that reflective surface, bounces back, and then it shows up as a red dot on your little, I think usually people have like a white dish or something like that. And a red dot shows up. And that shows that there's a man-made object up there, that we put something there.
So you hold your laser on and you'll see it hit, and you can see it come back down, so you can keep your laser on.
Right. That's exactly. No, that's not what happens. You can't see the laser.
Well, then how do you know it's actually up there? You said you see a red dot, so what do you see come back?
You see a red dot on the reflective surface, but that proves that the laser, when you shine your flashlight if you walk outside and shine your flashlight up into the night sky,
Mm-hmm.
nothing comes back, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, now, if I took a piece of paper and put it over the top of the flashlight, there would be light on the ground, correct?
There'd be some reflection, probably. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It would reflect off of the paper onto the ground. When you shoot this laser at this point in the moon, it bounces back, it reflects back onto your surface.
Yeah.
That's why it shows up as a red dot on your surface.
But you'd have to have it on for a little bit of time. You can't just press it once, have it hit and come back. I don't think you'd be able to even see that. It'd be so quick.
No, yeah, I think you fire it in like bursts.
Oh, okay.
Is what I've heard, that the way you do it is you shoot it in bursts, and then you turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, and then after that, then you turn and you look, because you're right. I think it takes like
Enough time for a drone to come by and shoot a laser or whatever you're shooting at.
Exactly.
Have you ever seen anybody do this, or?
I've never seen it like in person, but I've seen all sorts of people do the experiment, like
Gotcha.
on videos and stuff like that.
Well, I know we're getting pretty close to where our telescopes and stuff are good enough to almost see like the flags and stuff that are up there.
Yeah, so there you go. So hopefully, would that shut down the theory, or would it just be like, no, we shot a flag out of a cannon and hit the moon?
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to have people be like, no, that's not true. Because, if you're so hell-bent on saying that the moon landing was fake, even if you're looking through a telescope at that thing, you'd be like, nah, fake. Telescope's lying to me. Like, it's tricking me. Like, nobody, like, it's like the moon theory. The only way you're going to prove to somebody like that it's not flat is flying them up to space and let them see, like, hey, look, we're circling. It's a circle. And then they jump out of the aircraft, be like, my life's been a lie.
All this time.
Actually, one of the things, too, so the reason this is kind of like, like I always think, like, why is it beneficial to lie about these things? Well, we beat the Russians, so it gave us some kind of superiority. It forced the Russians to spend an exorbitant amount of money to develop their program. So that's what forced them to basically go bankrupt, which allowed the United States to take full power or become like the main world power.
You know, my favorite story about the space race is that we spent millions of dollars, and we had NASA design a pen that could write in space. Spent millions. I don't remember how much off the top of my head, but a bunch of money. And we figured out how to get a pen that would write in space, because in the zero gravity, the ink, is like comes in globules and whatnot. You know what the Russians did? They used a pencil. Love that story.
Save a little bit of money. But I mean, that could have been a lie. They could have said that they're spending all this money on pens. Like, oh, well, the Russians outsmarted us on that trick.
Oh, that's right. Because of the nonsense fucking flat earth people.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
So I'm curious, okay, people that believe in the flat earth, do they also believe that we didn't go to the moon?
Probably. I bet they coincide. At least a majority of flat earth people probably.
It's like a big Venn. It's like a Venn diagram of flat earth, fake moon landing, and then there's this little sliver of special people.
Well, it's more of a big, like, like there's a little sliver on like a half moon, a crescent moon.
Yeah.
That they're like, nah, I think I only believe this or that.
And one person's like, that circle looks flat. And then the other people are like, that circle doesn't exist. I've never been in that circle. And then the people in the middle are like, I don't know what's going on. All right. Third pick. Shawn, I'm gonna go with a conspiracy theory. You've heard it in movies, and you've heard it. It's always in movies. It's always the quote unquote crazy person says it. The guy with the tinfoil hat, or the homeless guy that's drunk and spouting off crazy shit. Like, what's the one theory that they usually go with? CIA. What's the CIA do? What's the CIA trying to do?
Brainwash us. Get in our brains.
Trying to get in our brains. They're trying to brainwash us. So, Shawn, for my third round pick, I'm going to go with the conspiracy theory of CIA mind control.
Ooh.
But wait, Shawn, it gets better. Because all those guys, the whole time, they were saying what? Oh, CIA is doing research on mind control. Mind control. CIA is trying to control minds. Guess what, Shawn?
Black van pulled up, put a mask over my head, threw me in. Next thing I wake up and I'm playing bongos in front of dudes in white lab coats, naked.
It's true. CIA mind control program was a real thing. We actually did that.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
It's called the MK Ultra Project, or Project MK Ultra. It was established in the 50s. We started doing it in the 50s.
Yeah, there was a stretch of time like the 30s, 40s, and 50s. There was a lot of like, I don't know if it was a conspiracy theory or not, but like actually injecting like syphilis into people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people consider
we
that,
thought
like,
we thought we were done with the Indians, but no, we need to go further. Here, hold this blanket.
Oh.
Apparently that wasn't enough experimentation with syphilis.
No.
We need to actually stick a needle in people.
Well, the blankets was smallpox, wasn't it? It wasn't syphilis.
I thought in some cases it was syphilis. There
Well,
was that episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where Xander got syphilis.
Well, that was from like an Egyptian chick, wasn't it?
No, that was Native American. Because it was during Thanksgiving, and the whole thing was like, oh, I don't want to hurt the Indians.
I don't remember that one.
It was season 4. It was their Thanksgiving episode.
No, I don't remember that.
Buffy felt all bad, and then Spike went on this tirade about the Indians. He's like, you came in. When Spike was like, you came in, you killed them, and you took their land. That's what conquering nations do. He's like, Caesar didn't show up and was like, I came, I saw, I conquered, and I felt really bad about it. And they're like, well, wait. Then Buffy and Willow are trying to justify it. They're like, well, I mean, we were trying to. He's like, you showed up and you massacred them. And then Xander got syphilis. Because in the Dracula episode, he said, I'm tired of being the one that gets the funny syphilis.
Yeah, we'll have to do some research on that because I'm pretty sure you can't get syphilis from a blanket. Because then the toilet seat fact would be true. That wouldn't be a conspiracy theory. But I thought syphilis was only like a sexual transmitted thing.
We'll see. Anyway, mind control. Apparently, so some historians have said that we were trying to create like a Manchurian Candidate, which is a movie. So like all this crazy ass shit that people were coming up with in movies. Hey, guess what? Might actually be true. There was a whole
Richard Baba Booey. Richard Ba Booey.
395er Baba Booey. Ready to comply.
Take off your pants.
Damn it. Not again. So the big thing with the MK Ultra, or one of the more popularized things, was that we were feeding people drugs like LSD and stuff like that. And then there was other experiments about remote where people would have conversations or we would put people in a room that were quote unquote psychics, and we would ask them to describe a person that somebody's thinking about and stuff like that. All this sort of crazy shit that we thought was, oh, pie in the sky, fucking, that's what the weird homeless drunk says on the street corner. Guess what, Sean? It was true.
So conspiracy theory that was actually factual?
Yeah. The MK Ultra Project. I don't want to mention much about it because I feel like I want to eventually do a podcast about it.
Okay. All right. Well, then I will jump into my third round pick. I'm kind of staying in the space realm.
All right.
This one goes to a famous crash, Richard, that happened back in the 60s, I believe, in a nice little town in Arizona New Mexico.
1947.
New Mexico. Was it 47?
This is 1947, crash of 47.
This is the Roswell crash landing conspiracy theory.
Yes.
The fact that we had aliens crash land, and we take their bodies and we do crazy experiments on them. That goes back to, that's factual stuff there too, Richard. We experimented on aliens. I saw Independence Day. I know what happened.
I did too. I know what happened. Yeah, I saw the whole thing.
How far is Area 51 from Roswell? Is it pretty close?
Well, Area 51, actually, the theory is that there really isn't anything Area 51 anymore. It's still considered a United States black site in the sense that the government doesn't acknowledge that it exists, but you can go and you can you can't see it because they've extended the perimeter out so far that you actually, by the time you get to the perimeter, which is like a big barbed wire fence, like you can't even see the installation from where you're at.
Yeah, I know you used to be able to get pretty close, and you'd have people come up on you really, really quick.
Yeah,
because they used to, I saw a thing where like they would actually fly the people that work there from like an airport place into Area 51.
Yeah, they do. I like I said, I don't know what the status of the site is now, but yeah, they would, everybody that works there, they would commute by plane at a local airport. They would get on a plane, fly to the site, and then fly out.
But this goes back to the Roswell crash. So it crashed. We grabbed these aliens. We did some experiments on them, but we don't want anybody to know about it. So I'm always kind of confused about this. Like, what happened? What, like, if the government knows that aliens exist, this actually happened. Why are they keeping it under wraps?
Oh, I mean, you could name. Name the reasons. Maybe they're technologically superior, and we're trying.
Truce. We've built a truce with them.
Maybe we've built a truce with them. Maybe we've captured their technology, and we've been slowly working to reverse engineer it.
Transformer style,
right? Not Transformers. We're not going to mention Transformers. Basically it's, I mean, you could even go back to the whole one world government thing. Like, what would be the benefit of telling the public, especially think of it now. Like, think how would people act if we found out today that the Roswell crash of 47 was real, and that for the last 70 years we've been lied to? How do you think the public's perception of the government and the military would be at that point? You'd have civil unrest.
I mean, we know like the CIA thing was true, but there's not much about that. I mean, you find out all the time that these things that were the public was lied to.
Yeah, but I think there's a far cry between giving people LSD and sitting them in a room and asking them to name Russian operatives that they never heard of in their life, and finding out that you're not alone in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is bigger in that aspect, but I still think I don't know how people would react. I mean, you have some people who would freak out, of course. I mean, people freak out about a lot of things, but I just don't know. I mean, if like you see President Trump walk out on stage and he's like, listen, this has been lied to by the people. Like, I want to be a, open presidency. Here is Steve the Martian. And out comes Steve. He's like, hi, I'm Steve.
Fake news!
We've been amongst you for many years. We've actually married some of you. And
get off the stage!
Doesn't even look like a Martian.
Fake news.
But yeah, so that would be my third round pick. I'm going to go with a Roswell crash landing conspiracy theory.
What the thing that I love when it comes to the Roswell crash is the fact that they went through like 5 different excuses as to what actually happened.
What was a weather balloon?
Balloon?
Experimental aircraft.
Well, the experimental aircraft came. No, I think first it was weather balloon. The swamp gas was my personal favorite. That it was some sort of gastric anomaly from who the fuck knows. Now the story that they've settled on So now what they're saying it is, or was at the time, was the United States military was testing parachutes. They were testing basically like halo jumps, where you're
high altitude jumps.
High altitude. So they had these anthropomorphic dummies that they were dropping out of planes from high altitudes.
I got.
And then they were wearing, I guess some of them might have been wearing chutes, some of them might not have been wearing. And so apparently this crash was from a drone plane that had these dummies in it.
And that's why they were quick to get out there and scoop it up, because we didn't want the Russians to get it.
Right. So that's the story that we're going with now. But who knows? Not me. That's for sure.
Is that a theory that you believe in is actually factual, that there was a spacecraft that crashed at Roswell?
I don't know. Like I will I will say I'm not going to go full tilt and say yeah, there were aliens at Roswell, but there's enough questions either way for me to second guess what the cover story is. Also, like I said, the fact that, first it was this and then it was this and now it's this makes me go like, oh, well, now that you've told me the real story, I guess I'll believe you, even though I was supposed to believe you the first 2 times.
I don't know if it's a weather balloon, gas.
I don't know. Dummies. They're dummies.
I just want to go back into my sheep clothing and be a sheep. It's
Right?
much easier.
It is much easier, but I can't. I can't switch it off, Shawn. All right. Where are we at? We are at pick number 4. We are pick number 4. Okay. All right. For my pick number 4, I'm going to go with one major event. This was a pivotal event in United States history, but there is a multitude of theories about what actually happened. And all of these are a conspiracy theory in their own right. Shawn, for my 4th round pick, I'm going to go with the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
So this was definitely on my list. I've always been really interested about this one.
Yeah? I think the thing that I find so there's a theory about all the different people that did it. So let's run through the list. So first at the top of the list at the time, and what we're saying is that apparently there was that Lee Harvey Oswald was a fall guy. He was the patsy for the real shooter that actually did it. Okay.
On the knolly grass? Yes,
behind the grassy knoll. So let's go through the list of people that had the motive.
Cubans,
number 1. Well, maybe not number 1, but Cubans are towards the top because Cuba was not at all happy with Kennedy at the time. You had the embargo.
You had the missile crisis.
Yeah, missile crisis that went on. Bay of Pigs. So Castro and Kennedy were not buds. They were not hanging out together. There were no golf trips for Castro and Kennedy. So that's number 1. Number 2, of course, Russia, Cold War.
Yeah.
Also, KGB, evil empire. Mafia. This one I find interesting because I'm not entirely sure about this one because I think that the mafia's problems with Kennedy had less to do with him and more to do with his brother, because Robert, who was Attorney General, was the one that was really like going hard on the mob. I think that if the mafia was going to kill anybody, they would have killed Robert rather than John, because it didn't seem like John. I got the impression that John could give 2 shits less about the mob. There's a whole theory about the mob helping Kennedy get elected.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
And then, obviously they turn their back.
There's the one about the Watchman guy killing him. That theory out
yes.
there.
the comedian, that is also at the top of the list. Maybe the comedian did it.
Uh-huh. I saw a movie about it.
I did too.
So
it looked totally period.
Yeah.
There was
factual.
another one I saw that James Franco did it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he went back in time.
He went through a door and was palling around with Lee Harvey Oswald. He's like, "You're my best friend."
And they're like hanging out, having drinks. Like, "Hey, I'm going to go kill the president." Wait, what? No. Terrible idea.
Don't do that. All right. Next theory, or the next people on the list, CIA.
Okay.
That was part of a CIA coup d'etat, or that Kennedy was getting too close, was wanting to revamp the CIA, and there were rogue elements inside the spy agency that were none too happy with Mr. JFK.
I've heard that his vice president was involved with some of that too, because JFK didn't want to get us into Vietnam.
Right.
And I think we're actually financially in a little bit of a struggle. And so it's like, hey, what makes money? War.
War makes money.
Yeah, so let's go to Vietnam to make some money by having a war. And JFK was not down for that.
So you could also add to this list, Shawn, one world government. They're like, hey, let's make some war. Let's make some money. And then Kennedy's like, no. He's like, no, I'm against this war. In my Bostonian accent, I don't like war. You stop this war.
Was he from Boston?
It was like, yeah, I thought so.
Massachusetts or New
Massachusetts.
England area? I gotcha.
Yeah. So he, he got shot when he was in the car.
We were actually pretty close to that, because it was in Fort Worth, wasn't it? Around that area?
Yeah. It was in Dallas.
I think they have a placard on the ground of like, hey, this is where it happened.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, this is.
We took a bullet to the dome.
Do you think you'd be kind of nervous walking around there, even though obviously nobody's going to be there?
That you know of. So yeah, so then there's the whole CIA. I think that's everybody that I think is a suspect, right? Unless I missed somebody.
It sounds about right. I know that's why a lot of people talk about, like, when Lee Harvey Oswald, he was killed by a guy with mob ties,
Jack Ruby,
that had cancer. So he was already on his deathbed. So it's like he's like not even to trial. You shoot him, and then he dies of cancer like a couple months later.
Well,
right?
and plus, like, Jack Ruby was got up close.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen?
Yeah. Well, that's
Jack Ruby was practically standing next to Oswald when he shot him. So the theory is that Jack Ruby was tying up loose ends for powers unknown.
Because there was never really much of an investigation either, right? Like, they were like, oh yeah, I guess it was him. Move on. Hey, Vietnam.
Well, actually, the files for the JFK assassination, I think, are due to be released this year.
I believe so. Didn't they get pushed? Weren't they supposed to be out like a couple years ago?
I think so, yeah. They wanted to wait until everybody that could have been involved with anything is dead.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, I thought there was supposed to be a time limit. Like, is it like 40 years documents are supposed to be available to the public?
They will be released in, find the date. The deadline is October 26th of this year.
So how would you feel? And that's like, what if you found out that the CIA was the ones that killed JFK?
Well, I mean, who knows what the files are going to say, and who knows if the files might have been tampered with. And also the president can, like, just say, no, not doing that. He could do like with the tax return, just be like, nah, I changed my mind.
Well, he isn't the one that's saying to release him, though.
To release the JFK stuff?
Yeah, that was already like in play.
Yeah, but he can stop it. He could just be like, no, never mind. And then they don't come out.
JFK was a Democrat, though, so maybe that'll, like, see, Democrats are evil.
There you go.
We're getting political.
There's the light at the end of the tunnel. All right. So for my number 4 pick, I'm going to go with the JFK assassination.
All right. Well, all of these conspiracy theories so far, Richard, have been very, very, like, dreary. Like, we're talking about flat Earth, talking about Jesus being married.
Yeah.
Talking about mind control, aliens.
Jesus being married is kind of a happy thing, right?
Kinda. Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
That's happy.
But you're getting into religious talk. So, Richard, I want to go with something that's a little bit more fun. It doesn't matter as much. It's like, if they did it, whatever. It's not a big deal. I want to go into the realm of baseball, Richard.
Oh, okay.
Back in the mid-90s, there's the strike, right? Major League Baseball, 1994, had a strike.
Sure.
Lost a lot of fans. Because,
knew all about it. I saw it all the time. I was enthralled with this crisis.
I remember wrestling had a ad where they're like, the kid's like out on the ball field and he hits a ball and there's nobody there. And Macho Man Randy Savage walks up and picks the ball. And it's like, WWF, never out of season, never on strike.
Nice. That's clever.
So, Richard, what I'm going to go with, it's called the juiced ball theory. It's the juiced ball conspiracy theory. So this theory is that, baseball was struggling because they won fans back. So to increase scoring, they started tampering with the baseball to make it more basically like come off the bat harder, so you get more hits. You could get like, you know, more runs and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it was actually in the 2002 World Series where people started complaining about these balls being juiced even more because there was an 11-10 game, which you rarely ever see.
That does seem super high for a baseball score.
A lot of ball players kind of were complaining about it. They had an independent person study the balls, but of course it's you know, Major League Baseball wants to keep their brand safe, so they would send, you know, the unjuiced balls.
Right.
But you can tag onto this conspiracy theory. So Richard, you know, 1998, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, broke the long home run record. You know, 61 was the record for a long time. And for somehow, coincidentally, in the same year, 2 guys break that record.
Yeah.
So these guys get through their career, and to tarnish it because this juiced ball theory is starting to come out. What else do they start talking about a lot, Richard?
Roids.
Steroids.
Talking about the roids.
Yep. So they start
this I knew about.
So they start damning the players because there was no rules about it. There was no testing, I believe, back then, or if it was very limited. So it's like if you wanted to juice, you could. So you can juice yourself and the ball's juice. So we're guaranteeing these balls are going to fly over the fence.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not like, you know, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have home run derbies.
They did. I mean, they had them in the 60s and 50s.
Did they?
Yeah. Well, the guy that hit the 61 home runs was in 1961, and Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs in the 30s. So I mean, people were doing it.
I'm always under the assumption that Babe Ruth is exempt from all this because he was like a fucking anomaly.
No, there's a few. I mean, he was at the time, but like in the 30s and 40s, there was guys who were doing it too, like Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris, for instance. So there were guys that were hitting these 40, 50 home runs a year, but nobody ever hit 60. Like 2 guys never hit 60 home runs in the same year, and you had 2 guys do it for like 3 or 4 straight years. Like Sammy Sosa hit 60 plus home runs like 3 or 4 years in a row. So nobody had ever even hit 60 home runs in like 45 years, and one guy does it 3 consecutive years.
So you're calling shenanigans.
Well, I think it could be both things because I mean, baseball was struggling. You know, they came off a strike, so you want to get fans involved again. And they always talk about the home run race of 1998 as being the thing that saved baseball because everybody was watching. I'm guessing you probably even watched or was paying attention.
Sure.
You didn't know about Mark McGwire's home run race in 98?
I heard about it because I live like an hour and a half from fucking St. Louis.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, people who didn't care about, at least they were hearing about it. So if you were like on the fence fan,
I don't think I really had a choice.
No, that's how you get the hype. Like it's this thing that you never hear about.
Yeah.
And so that's how they got it back in baseball. And then when people start like talking about this juice ball, you'd be like, oh no, it wasn't that. It was these guys who were on steroids. So we're going to tarnish their careers, not allow them to go in the Hall of Fame, and protect our brand, which is what conspiracy theories are built on.
Yeah.
So for my 4th round pick, Richard, I'm going to go with the juiced ball conspiracy theory.
I've never heard of that before. So they're saying that they deliberately fucked with the balls to make them go farther.
Because baseballs, like the old time baseballs, were not wound as tight, so it's like hitting like a kind of like a hacky sack, like a harder hacky sack. But during the 40s, they actually started making them a little bit tighter, so that the ball would go further. And so that's the idea behind this. Like the core of it's actually like this cork. So they use some kind of rubber or something like that so that the ball would fly off a lot further, creating more runs, creating more home runs, making it a little bit more dangerous.
Always fun for the people in the stands to catch a ball to the head.
Yeah.
I've seen some of those. Those don't look pretty.
Yeah, that's where we sat in Chicago. We were right in the line of fire.
That's why I always, whenever somebody hit a ball, I threw you in front of me.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. Be like, you hear the crack of the bat.
Take the girl!
You hear
All right, Shawn. For my next pick, we're gonna go way back, and I'm gonna call into a question one of the greatest authors and playwrights of our time. Was this on your list?
Yeah, go ahead.
Shawn, I'm gonna talk about good old Bill Shakespeare. That's crazy. I thought this was going to be kind of a lesser known thing. Okay, so Shawn, the thing is the Shakespeare authorship question. So what this argument is, which I apparently don't need to tell you, is the argument that someone other than William Shakespeare wrote the things that were attributed to his name.
I've heard, so this is kind of a multiple theory thing. I've heard that Shakespeare was a woman.
I've heard that.
Shakespeare was a group of people.
That's the one that I think has been the most perpetuated. There's been all sorts of people that were apparently the author, or people that have been called into question as the author of, all sorts of things. Now, are they, so I mean, I don't know, I guess maybe you can tell me. I mean, are they saying that Shakespeare never existed, or are they saying that basically,
from all I've kind of heard, it's like Shakespeare is a pen name that was used by multiple people. The other theory is that, like, I've heard that, like, it was a woman, or a woman was part of this writing group.
Right. Sir Francis Bacon, Edward de Vere, the Earl of Oxford, Christopher Marlowe, William Stanley have all been suspects.
I've also heard, I know when the King James Bible was written,
I
mean, kind of going back to one of your other picks,
okay,
they were kind of taking all these different gospels and trying to figure out which ones they wanted to fit in there.
Yeah.
And I had
the Council of Nicene.
And I had a professor, because this was about the time when Shakespeare was around. I had a professor that said, like, he's like, all this stuff reads very much like Shakespeare. So Shakespeare probably had a pretty strong hand in writing a lot of this. And so if you have that committee of people that were writing Shakespeare's plays, because basically Shakespeare's a committee,
Oh,
they're
wow.
the ones that kind of wrote that book.
Oh my shit, you just blew my fucking mind. That's crazy.
Because you read it, it reads very much kind of like a Shakespearean type kind of play.
Wow. That's crazy.
But again, I mean, this would be kind of like, it would tie to the times, because if women were writing this, or like, if one person had the king's ear, they could get their stuff made. I mean, it's kind of like today in Hollywood. I mean, how many people have written scripts that get addressed to somebody else?
Exactly. And how many people get called to help fix a script? I mean, you hear stories about, people that, people with fairly well-known names that get called in and be like, hey, we got the script, could you take a look at it and make some changes, make some notes, and blah blah blah. I mean, it's plays movies are a very collaborative project, so I guess it would stand to reason that that plays would work the same. So I will say that, like, all these theories that we're proposing, I'm sure you can just Google all of it and find, like, in the top result and get all sorts of stuff. But some of the stuff I'd never heard about until I started looking into it. The Shakespeare thing, never heard of this until I started looking into it.
Yeah,
there's another one that I had just found out about today when I was watching something else and added it to my list.
Yeah, conspiracy theories can get you down a rabbit hole of stuff. It's like,
they really can.
You start watching, like, oh my God, maybe that is true. But you got to be careful you don't fall into, like, the Alex Jones realm. Like, if you start getting down that too far, then you get in trouble.
Then you start taking your shirt off and you're like, oh, I'm gonna fight you. So there you go. There's my next pick, is the Shakespeare authorship question.
I like it. All right, so we're going with art now, Richard. So I'll stay with that theme. So there has been a guy who has been, he is like the king of rock and roll. I'm not even going to really bury it too much. The king of rock and roll, right? Died in a pretty horrific death.
Yeah.
But Richard, what do people say they've seen for the last 40 years walking around?
The ghost of Elvis?
No, they say they've seen Elvis. Right? Like, you hear people like,
yeah.
I saw Elvis at the KFC. So, Richard, I'm going to go with the conspiracy theory that Elvis Presley faked his own death.
Oh, my God. Yeah, okay. Like, I could totally buy this. Like, sell me on it. I'm glad you actually included this, because I would love someone to teach me about this. So why would he fake his own death?
Well, I mean, he could have been tired of the life.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, he was the biggest thing in, like, show business, right?
I mean, he was married though, and he had kids.
But still, I mean, Elvis Presley couldn't go out, eat a dinner at a restaurant without getting just harassed, right?
This is true. Very true.
I mean, you see the thousands of the so-called sightings that have happened. So the main reason given in support of the belief that Presley faked his own death is that on his grave, his middle name, Aaron, A-R-O-N, is spelled as Aaron with two A's.
Uh-huh.
Aaron is actually the genuine middle name for Presley. Apparently, either Presley or his parents tried to change the name to Aaron to make it more similar to Presley's stillborn twin, Jesse Grayron Presley. So the fact that his tombstone's spelled incorrectly.
Interesting.
But
the plot thickens.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're Elvis Presley, you've been, you're getting older, you're like, you want to retire, but even in retirement, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do.
Yeah, okay. So I guess my big question is like, what about the money? Because I mean, you're Elvis Presley, like you're rolling in fucking dough.
Oh yeah, Richard, that's interesting. So his estate still is one of the top earning, corporations out there.
Yeah, he's still a fairly well-selling artist, and he's been dead for 30 years.
Yeah, so I mean, his daughters, maybe his daughters hooking him up with the money. Maybe he's come up with a different name, and he's still like running the Elvis Presley empire.
They leave an envelope full of bills under a bus station seat every month.
Well, it's like Tupac. I mean, Tupac comes out with a new album every like 2 months, every 2 years.
Thank you very much for my envelope of cash. Please, honey, don't marry that Jackson boy. I don't feel right about him.
Well, you can't give me away, Dad, or give your blessing, because you're dead to me and the world. But I mean, if like he gets to this point, like he starts going out and like people start seeing him, he's like, shit. So he starts putting in people's ears like Elvis impersonators. You start getting that to be a thing. So like somebody comes up and sees him sitting there. He's like, "Hey, are you Elvis? Holy shit!" It's like, no, I'm.
And he's like, "No, that man's been dead for so long. Oh my god,
give me a turkey leg sandwich."
I mean, I do look like him though, don't I? Don't I look gorgeous? Look at me. Look how beautiful I am.
Give me that peanut butter and banana sandwich.
Give me a peanut butter and let me whip my dick out. Look at it. Look at it. Does that look like Elvis's dick? It actually kind of does. Well, never mind about that. Touch it. Just touch it once. I'm so lonely. I'm so lonesome.
This place looks like a shithole in the ghetto.
In the ghetto.
The baby was born.
Yeah.
In the ghetto. All right, so my 5th round pick, I'm going with Elvis Presley faking his own death conspiracy theory.
I actually do not, like on my Spotify list and anything, like I do not have a single Elvis Presley song in any of my lists of music. But if someone like starts, like some of the bigger known ones, if somebody starts a song, I can finish it. Yeah. Like you were like in the ghetto. I'm like in the ghetto. See, like, so to say that he didn't do much, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, isn't he the best-selling artist of all time? Or is that?
Yeah, I think that's
Jackson
still the Beatles.
Oh, okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that, but I don't know.
Yeah, but for my 5th round pick, I'm going with the Elvis Presley faking his own death conspiracy theory.
Oh, what am I gonna do? I'm torn between which one I should do first. So I'm going to go with an article I found off History Buff. I think we actually might have done a podcast on this. Or if we haven't, we should. Or at least I'm almost positive we at least talked about it. Shawn, I'm going to talk about another author.
2 authors?
No, yes, another author. This one was known for writing books and poems. We're not going to talk about whether or not he actually existed. I'm going to talk about whether or not he might have been somebody more.
Okay.
Shawn, for my 6th round pick, I am going to go with the conspiracy theory that Edgar Allan Poe was a time traveler.
We've talked about this a little bit.
I can't remember if we've talked about it on a show or if we've just talked about it because it is fucking fascinating to me. The article I'm looking at just says Edgar Allan Poe is a time traveler and I can prove it. But there's been a bunch of articles like this that have kind of gone a little viral every now and again. And people are like, well, maybe. I don't know. And there are theories as to basically he's from the future and traveled into the past, and that you can find references to things that he should know nothing about in his work.
Yeah, because I think do you have any examples of that?
Let's see. In an interview, Italian astronomer. No, something else. Let's see. Okay, so in 1848, a railroad worker named Phineas Gage, which I do remember this story. He suffered a traumatic brain injury after taking an iron spike through the skull and survived. I remember this. This was in a history book when I was in school. Was a picture of like the X-ray.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about this too. This has happened a few times.
So, though his personality would change drastically, so that was it was one of the theories when it came to basically it was kind of the start of psychology and therapy and things like that, because this guy was like apparently a very nice, mild-mannered guy, had a iron spike shoved through his head, and then he was a dick, and people were like, oh, he's a dick now. I'm like, well, he did have a spike shoved through his fucking head. I mean, I think that's enough to piss anybody off.
And the fact that he probably has a headache 24/7.
These behavioral changes were closely studied, allowing the medical community to develop the first understanding or role played by the frontal lobe on social cognition. Except for Poe, who inexplicably understood the profound personality changes caused by frontal lobe syndrome for nearly a decade. In 1840, he penned a gruesome story called The Businessman about an unnamed narrator who suffers a traumatic head injury as a young boy, leading to a life of obsessive and violent sociopathic outbursts. So he writes a story about a guy that gets a head injury, a brain injury, and then it changes his entire personality. And at the time, we didn't even think that was a thing. That, personality was like a thing in your frontal lobe. So this guy suffers. Then the story, guy has a brain injury, and all of a sudden he's a dickhead. Then 8 years later, the actual thing happens to a person, and and it plays out exactly like Poe's story.
I always find that interesting because even if, why would he pick that one thing? Like, that seems like a very obscure thing, and then to go back and use that as a story.
A researcher says there's a dozen symptoms about frontal lobe syndrome, and he knows every single one. There's everything in that story. We've hardly learned anything more. And this guy's saying that today. He's saying he wrote all the stuff in the story, and that's pretty much exactly how it happens. And there isn't much more that we've figured out beyond that.
And so the other theory tied to that is the fact that on his birthday, somebody would deliver, was it roses and rum?
Something like that, yeah.
And then like a year or two ago, it stopped. Like finally, whoever was doing that didn't show up.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll stop with the a quote. This is a letter that Poe wrote to James Russell Lowell in 1844. And he says, I live continually in a reverie of the future. I have no faith in human perfectibility. I think that human exertion will have no applicable effect on humanity. Man is now only more active, not more happy, nor more wise than he was 6,000 years ago. The result will never vary, and to suppose that it will is to suppose that the foregone man has lived in vain, that the foregone time is but the rudiment of the future.
Hashtag misery. Wait, why would he use the oh my God, he was a time traveler.
There you go.
That's what I would do. I would fuck with people if I went back in time, start putting a hashtag.
You go back in time and just be a dickhead?
Everything's 140 characters, hashtag.
And then just come back to the present. I invented the hashtag. So yeah, Shawn, 6th round pick, the Edgar Allan Poe time traveler theory.
All right, so for my 6th round pick, I'm going to go back to kind of a government one world order type of thing.
All right.
This is something like somebody told me a few years ago. He's like, listen, your water is only as clean as your government says it is.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. There's a issue up in Detroit or Flint, Michigan that's been like that
Flint,
for a
Michigan.
bit. 3 years, I think they said they haven't had clean water.
Yeah. And it's not just, and it's not like, oh, it's just, it's not clean. It's terrible.
Yeah. It's got lead,
killing
right?
There's lead in it. It's bad.
But so I'm going to go with, supposedly the government has started putting this stuff into water because it helps keep your teeth clean, right? This is the water fluoridation conspiracy theory.
Oh, I saw this, but I did not put it on my list. But I was kind of curious about it.
Yeah, so basically they say it's for tooth decay. That's the reason they put it in there. But a lot of people, kind of like with a one world government, start to talk about how this is like a communist, fascist, like New World Order, Illuminati plot to basically pacify people. So basically to make people less, on edge and more calm. Just go with the flow, hang out, work, do your 9 to 5.
Do a podcast with your friend.
I thought about maybe trying to start a revolution, but I'll do it tomorrow.
Maybe that's why I didn't add the theory, is because I've been drinking all the damn fluoride. Maybe that's why I didn't put it on my list.
Well, we just talked about that today. You and I both drink a lot of water a day. I drink like a gallon of water a day.
Yeah.
So
it should be on my list, not yours.
That's true. But it's always kind of interesting when we talk about trying to control the population. Like you talked about that with the New World Order a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is one of the ways they could do it, supposedly, is with putting these things in the water to mellow people out.
Yeah. I'm fine with them saying like, oh, fluoride in the water and that's fucking people up. Like, I'm just glad that you only went that far and you didn't go like we said, like crazy ass Alex Jones route and be like, let's turn the frogs gay.
Yeah. Didn't he actually say that?
He actually said that. That is a thing that happened. Wow.
But yeah, so for my 6th round pick, I'm going to go with a water fluoridation conspiracy theory.
Ooh. All right, Shawn, the money shot pick. I'm going to go, like I said, I just learned about this today and I had to look it up because this one had me fucking really, really curious and sent me down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So I am going to talk about what is known as the Black Knight satellite. Have you ever heard of this?
I have heard of this.
You have? So what the Black Knight satellite is apparently there is an object floating in space around the Earth. The Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory claims that there is a spacecraft in near polar orbit of the Earth that is of extraterrestrial origin, and that NASA is engaged in a cover-up regarding its existence and origin. The conspiracy theory combines several unrelated stories into one narrative. Some people think that this ship might be 13,000 years old.
I've heard that there's supposedly like people that have like mentioned this like in older texts, like before we had spaceships and stuff, before we left our flat Earth for the fake moon landing.
Son of a bitch.
That people had like found this thing. I thought I read somewhere this was debunked, but I'm not. I don't remember for sure.
I'm curious to know. Like I said, I didn't get to see much on it. Is it still there? Sounds like it's still there. Well, not that we could see it because government's hiding the images of it. So there's that. The Black Knight is an artificial satellite of extraterrestrial origin, which has orbited the Earth for approximately 13,000 years.
How do they know it's that old?
The origin is retrospectively dated back to natural extraterrestrial repeating sources heard during the 1899 radio experiments of Nikola Tesla. I'm not sure how they know it's that old. According to some monitoring agencies, the satellite has been transmitting radio signals for over 50 years. Time magazine did an article about it, so this might actually be a thing. According to a decoded message that apparently originated from the satellite, they're saying, according to the decoded message given apparently from the satellite, it's saying that it's 13,000 years old.
It's like, happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. That's interesting because how would it know what an Earth year is if it's not from here? And what is it, how does it consider its orbit? Is it just when it goes like back and forth on the flat Earth?
20 facts about the satellite. Because this like I said, I haven't seen much on it, but it had me fucking fascinated. Nikola Tesla was the first man to, quote, intercept a signal in 1899 after building a high-voltage radio device in Colorado Springs. Since the 1930s, astronomers worldwide have been reporting strange radio signals which allegedly come from the Black Night. In 1957, the Communications Ministry in Venezuela photographed it while taking pictures of Sputnik. Time magazine wrote about it in the 60s. In 1957, an unknown object was seen shadowing the Sputnik 1 spacecraft. According to reports, the unidentified object was in polar orbit. In 1957, neither the United States or Russia possessed the technology to maintain a spacecraft in that kind of orbit. That wasn't until 1960. But Tesla apparently was talking to it in 1900. In the 1960s, the Black Knight satellite was located once again in polar orbit. Astronomers and scientists calculated the object's weight to be over 10 tons, which would be, at the time, the heaviest artificial satellite to orbit our planet. What was the one that I thought was really interesting? On August 23rd, 1954, the technology magazine Aviation Week and Space Technology released a story about the satellite that angered the Pentagon, who were trying to keep the information secret.
One world government.
There it is. That's how you bring it back around. One world government hiding a satellite
to brainwash everybody
in orbit around the Earth to brainwash us, motherfuckers.
And Edgar Allan Poe probably has a story about it.
Yeah, that's probably his. That's probably his time machine. He probably left it there. He's like, "Oh, I'll be back." I wonder if maybe this is where we got the. I don't know. It was a ham radio operator who apparently decoded a series of signals received from the UFO satellite and interpreted it as a star chart centered on the Epsilon Bootes star system. So there you go. There is something in the sky that's sending out radio signals and has been for the last 50 years. Well, longer than that. For the last 100 years.
13,000 years, yeah.
If Tesla can decode the signals, I'm hooked. This one, I'll bite on this one. I think this one might have something to it. Hang on. See that? That's the sound of nobody proving me wrong. So I'm okay. That's my 7th round pick, the Black Knight satellite.
All right. So for my 7th round pick, so basically I'm going to bookend these with two kind of controversial ones I think that are going to fire you up. So the first one fired you up with the flat earth. I think this will fire you up as well. So Richard, it gets hot, right? Summertime gets hot. Wintertime gets a little cold.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
So Richard, I go outside right now. It's not that bad. Temperature seems okay.
I wanted to strangle you. Don't do this.
But some former vice president decides to make a movie and try to get everybody's panties in a tizzy. Richard, I'm going to go with the global warming is a hoax conspiracy theory.
Oh my God. Okay. This is the one. Remember when I said, I don't understand why we're having this debate? Not only do I not understand why we're having a debate about global warming, I also find it detrimental and hurtful to have a debate about global warming. When you have the debate, the fact that we're having the debate pisses me off, because what it means is that nothing is being done to fix it. Because first we have to acknowledge that there's a problem before we can fucking do anything about it.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is you have two sides fighting over this theory that it's fake. You have people saying it's fake. You have people saying it's real, which obviously man has some influence on the environment. I think you can't say it doesn't.
Exactly.
But I think the issue that there's a middle ground there of people who say, listen, we know there's an issue, but we have to figure out the right thing to do that is cost effective. Right? You can't just you have two far sides of this. You have people like, oh my gosh, we need to have all electric cars. It's okay, well, that's not possible. But
I'm not saying we all need to have. Okay, here's where I'm at. I'm not saying we all need to have electric cars, we need to do something, and we need to do a lot of something, because in the terms of quote unquote cost effectiveness, the whole what's the old adage, like, you can't take the money with you. Like, if we're all dead, then does it matter how cost effective we were to get there, to get to being dead?
Yeah, I think you just have to. I mean, yeah, I don't know. You have to figure something out with it, obviously. And I think what's going to happen, Richard, is to get those people on board is once you realize that the ice around the Earth that's keeping the flat Earth in one place,
Right.
When people start seeing that cracks, all that water's got to run somewhere, right? That's off the edge of the Earth.
Exactly.
So you start saying, hey, you riding around in that car, you got to stop that, or otherwise you're going to lose all the water. That would be a bad way to go. Like, could you imagine that's the proof? Like, somebody's a flat earther and a global warming denies, and all of a sudden, like, the crack in the ocean, all the water goes. So it's like, yay, I was right.
Wait.
Oh, damn it.
Fuck. Okay, so anybody can do this, okay? Take a pan of water and put it on your stove and slowly heat it up. Or put it through like a little tube. If as you heat water, it expands. So when the oceans get warmer, which that's the thing, is things are getting warmer, and I don't understand.
Water expands when it freezes, not when you warm it up.
If you put like you say you have like a cylinder, and as you slowly warm the cylinder, it's gonna want to try and push its way out.
Well, it'll evaporate.
Well, okay, if you heat it rapidly, like imagine like you have it evaporates, but it'll eventually want to boil its way out. Correct?
If it's in a confined place, yeah, I guess, but it's gonna whenever water freezes, it expands more than what you're saying, I think, because like that's why like you have cracks in concrete, because water gets in it,
okay.
freezes,
I think I'm wording it wrong. But my thing is, are we arguing over whether or not the data is real? Because that's my thing, is you can put a thermometer, like we have thermometers all over the place, and I think we can obviously see that things are warmer today, on average, today than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think the argument you see from a lot of the conspiracy theorists on that is that it's such a small sample size when you look at the how old the Earth is. So it's like, well, it's 10 degrees hotter today than it was yesterday. Well, you can't count that because there's changes for that. Like that's
right.
That's in the norm.
Right. But when you say that this year has been the hottest year since we started recording the temperature of years.
Yeah, and their argument is like, okay, well, now we have actually better thermometers in probably more places than we did 30 years ago. So are you going to trust the thermometer we had 30 years ago compared to today? So that's the argument they use.
How do you improve a thermometer?
Well, I mean, they're electric now, so I'm sure they're a lot more precise than like the mercury ones they used before.
Yes, you're right. They are more precise, but I mean, aside from being able to see, instead of seeing 33, you see 33.4. I mean, are we really 0.4 degrees, while not sounding like a lot, is a lot.
Well, I think that's over like everywhere. So like some places are warmer, some places are colder. So I think the also thing that they kind of argue is the fact that
just go find the website, like I don't care if everybody dies.com. Weatherapocalypse.com. I think that's the name of the.
But anyway, it's it's just one of those other theories I thought would be a good bookend to get you fired up. So I'm going to go for my 7th round pick. The global warming is a hoax conspiracy theory.
God.
So Richard's 1st round pick, we've got the one world government. For 2nd round pick, Jesus, Mary Magdalene. 3rd round pick, CIA mind control. 4th round pick, assassination, JFK conspiracy. 5th round pick, Shakespeare conspiracy. 6th round pick, Edgar Allan Poe was a time traveler conspiracy. And 7th round pick, Black Knight Satellite, which would be a great name for an album cover.
That would be a great name for an album cover.
So for me, on my 1st round pick, I had the Flat Earth conspiracy, the Moon landing conspiracy. 3rd round pick, Roswell crash landing conspiracy. 4th round pick, the Juiced Ball conspiracy. 5th round pick, Elvis Presley faked his own death conspiracy theory. 6th round pick, water fluoridation conspiracy theory. And 7th round pick, global warming is a hoax conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory. Conspiracy hypothesis. Fucking global warming's a hoax. Oh, God damn it. I had that on my list. I had climate change on my list. Oh, climate change.
The big thing that they argue too is it just goes back to money, that the money's being put into things that aren't actually, like, you look at I've heard of this too, like the ethanol fuel or whatever, the biofuel that they're making. Like it costs like 2 gallons of actual fuel, like oil fuel, to generate 1 gallon of that. When you look at what it takes to process it, I
think cost wise, I think that might be true. I have an idea. Let's just try to get away from using the fuel all fucking together. And when you're talking about ethanol, if you want, like, what if the ethanol thing is true or not true? When you're talking about ethanol, you're talking about corn, and we have a lot of stock in corn.
Yeah, but to build 1 gallon of that fuel took like it was a lot. It was like 3 to 5 gallons of regular fuel.
No, I guess I'm saying that there's when you bring corn into it, then you have corn interests brought into it. So if you're saying like, are we going to get rid of ethanol? I don't see that happening anytime soon, because then that's going to piss off corn.
Well, that's not. I don't think they're making. I think they've made a lot of money off of it initially, but you've got a bigger corporation to fight before you fight the corn people.
Monsanto.
Yeah, there's a couple little oil people that, have their hands in a lot of things. Which is
you want to talk? Yeah, oil companies and then Monsanto. And you want to talk about conspiracy theory? There's the whole Monsanto is the. I've heard that Monsanto might be the seat of or might have a place among that whole one world government, considering they own seeds.
Let's see. So I didn't have any other conspiracy theories. So do you have any more? No,
you had none.
I had all mine taken.
I did at the very, very bottom of my list. This was going to be my last resort in case of emergency break glass theory. Was Alex Jones's crazy lizard people theory?
Oh yeah. We talked about that before.
That there's lizard people that are in control of the government or whatever. I also had the Philadelphia experiment.
Okay, I saw that one.
Which I don't know if that's actually a conspiracy theory. I mean, maybe the cover up and whatnot, and also like what might actually have happened. There's another thing called the phantom. I just learned about this one too, not today, but the phantom time hypothesis, which apparently is saying that there are huge places in our history that were made up, and kind of basically that we have phantom time, that there's periods of our history that are completely blacked out and that we put in things to fill the gaps.
Makes sense. I mean, you only know what you're taught, so.
That's true.
And over time, if everybody believes it.
The Paul McCartney is dead theory, which my wife actually helped elaborate on for me, because this was just something I saw online. The theory is that Paul McCartney died in a car crash in 1966. And this was at the height of Beatles mania and whatnot. And so in order to keep the machine going, that Paul McCartney was replaced with a lookalike, and the lookalike is who we now know as Paul McCartney today.
Interesting. So to keep the Beatles
train moving, and then, eventually, he went on and had a huge solo career and won Grammys. He was he was honored at the Kennedy Center last year.
I just want to thank the real Paul McCartney.
So that's it. That's all I had. That's the last one.
All right. Well, I guess, do you want any tiny Richard's closing thoughts into our conspiracy theory draft?
You may think that they're crazy, but there was people with tinfoil hats that was saying that the NSA was looking at us through cameras. There was a movie, Enemy of the State, that had Gene Hackman acting like a crazy person, saying that the CIA is watching and the NSA are watching us through cameras in our phones or on our computers. And we were like, that's nuts. Well,
and then there's another movie called Snowden, which proves that it was real.
Then there was a guy
All right, well, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Visit our website. We're at languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter. We're at languageofbro. Email us at eatthebeaver@languageofbromance.com. Check out the LOB Army intelligence reports. Like us on Facebook. Go out and recruit somebody for the LOB Army. You know, get them a tinfoil hat, an LOB official tinfoil hat.
You could write LOB on it in magic marker.
You recruit them by getting them to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Stitcher.
And don't forget to check us out on the Pod Bros Network,
The best podcast site on the internet.
allegedly. Or is it?
Ooh, conspiracy theory.
Ah.
So, and also if you want to help out, go out and leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. This helps us get more exposure to more people so we can spread our message, Richard. One world podcast.
Yeah. Oh, see, now I just figured out now we need to rebrand. New name.
And if you want to go a little bit extra, check out our Patreon account. It's www.patreon.com/languageofbromance.
Do all of the things, or some of the things, or maybe one of the things. We'd love you if you did, but that's not true. We'd love you regardless.
No, we love you anyway. If you've listened this far, especially in this conspiracy theory, it's like,
yeah, if you've gotten this far, hats off to you. I would stop listening.
Hats off. Literally, take your tinfoil hat off right now. We're cruising into closure.
Yeah. We're done here.
All right.
Let's wrap it up.
Anything else before I close her out, Richard?
No. We're good.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I say we eat the flat earth beaver.
It's fluoride in the beaver.
Oh, beaver's not warm enough.
Fucking had to bring up global warming.
Caverns and Comedians is a real play Dungeons & Dragons podcast featuring Toronto comedians playing Dungeons & Dragons. We roll the dice, but we edit that out to just give you the nice role-playing experience. Featuring acts of heroism.
I've got his wallet. I mean, I didn't mean to kill him, but he was bad, right? We're pretty sure?
Do I have to heal you? I don't want to. Can't you just die?
Ooh, a dungeon master. My safe word is potato.
Stumbling towards goodness, one roll at a time. Caverns and Comedians can be found on iTunes, Google Play, or kicksandgigglesentertainment.com.